Hello, and welcome back to the Ask the Color Expert podcast. Today's special guest is coming back for a second interview. It is my longtime friend, Dean Forbes. He is a salon optimization coach, and he is amazing at what he does. We were just chatting right before we hit record, saying that we're still having the same issues and concerns and problems when he goes out to visit salons as I worked on with him 15 years ago. So we need to hear from Dean. We need an update on how we can behave differently so we don't keep sitting in the same spot that we always are, and we can do things differently. So Dean, thank you for coming back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Elaine. I appreciate it. Always love spending time with you, of course, for sure. And I appreciate spending time with your community. And yeah, it's an interesting conversation, right, about the same problems that we're having. And as I was telling you before, last week I walked into a salon, and the first thing out of the salon owner's mouth when I asked my question, so, what's going on? I can't get him to sell anything. And the retail conversation is still huge, and nobody is really teaching how to actually knock the retail game out of the park. And so they have this up and down cycle of who's selling in the salon and who's not. And so this is still one of my top requested program to do for salons, in salons, or even on Zoom, is to teach. I have a class called $1 Million Verbiage right now. It wasn't called that way back when. When you and I did it, I think it was called something totally different. It got upgraded to be called ABC, which is always be closing. And today it's called $1 Million Verbiage. And the reason why I ended up calling it $1 Million Verbiage is because, I tracked what has happened over the years of teaching this and how it has evolved. And it's definitely created at least, a few $1 million in retail revenue for the people that have engaged in it so far. And so it's gotten to a point where now it's been definitely morphed to what I think is the right conversation to be having today around retail. So
one of the biggest aha moments for me in working with you was, as salon owners, we want you to get right to our pain point. And usually the pain point is staff showing up late, calling out sick, not selling retail, not retaining clients. There's a whole list of things that we're concerned about. But the interesting thing and the way that you worked with us and where we got the biggest results was in the culture piece. We tend to not realize that is the overarching issue. And we always want the quick fix, tell them how to sell, tell them how to do this, tell them to be on time. And you had us really work together on what are the elephants in the room? What are the issues culturally with the staff that's preventing them from being their best selves? So I had to share that because, you can do your $1 million class and you can do these little piecemeal classes, but until the connection and the culture is right, most things are not going to be on point.
Elaine, you said that more beautiful than I've ever heard it said by any other salon owner in my life. I got goosebumps when you were talking because, so here's the reason why I'm saying that. I'm saying that because over the years, I've had to coin what I'm doing, and people ask me all the time. And the interesting thing is that the last 2 years, I actually wrote the formula for what you just said. And the formula is culture, championship culture, divided by scalable sales systems multiplied by excellence in execution equals profitability.
Okay. Now I have chills. Chills now.
That's exactly what it is. It's literally on the wall right. I wish I could, hold on a second. I wonder if I could do this real quick. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if it's over there. Right there on the wall. It's right there on the wall. I don't know if you can see it, but it is on the wall over there next to the lamp where I wrote that formula down, and I look at it every single day right there. Championship culture divided by scale with sales systems multiplied by execution excellence equals P3, performance, productivity, and profit. And that, you're absolutely right. If your culture isn't a selling culture, they won't sell. If your culture isn't an on-time culture, they won't be on time. And leadership decides or directs what culture is supposed to be. And if you're not leading by example, understand what that example should look like, your culture is going to look at, what do they say? The fish stings from the head down, right? And so if you can't get your culture right in your salon, then you're in trouble. And by the way, Elaine, I know you have suite owners or suite leasers that listen to your podcast as well, that may be single in a salon. And I'll tell you right now, don't think for one second that culture isn't important to you as well, because culture isn't just how just for multiple people. It's also what's your standard, then, if you want to call it a culture, right? What kind of people do you want to attract to you, and how are you behaving in your space as a proprietor to bring the right people in and have the right things happen in your business? So that's really important. So thank you for saying that.
I love that you said that, because something that I notice in the suite culture is the feeling of, I finally can do whatever I want. I can wear whatever I want. I can make my own hours. If I'm not busy, I can just leave. To which I just sit back and chuckle and say, oh, honey, you have no idea.
You don't even know.
Your culture is even more important now that you're alone, because you can't hide behind the people that are showing up the way that they should. You know,
Absolutely.
if I came into work one day and my hair was like a little frazzled and not my normal makeup and dress code or whatever, if I wasn't feeling well, clients would notice. They would say, are you okay? You know, like they would call me out on it, but they would look around and everyone else looked great and beautiful. So it was still a great experience. But if I come in looking haggard every single day, you know, there's nobody else to deflect that feeling and vibe. Most of our clients come to us for fashion and beauty and look up to us for those things. So don't forget that they're paying attention to what you look like and how you
Absolutely.
show up.
You can't just say you want to be the part. You got to look the part. You have to look the part, and you're going to attract whatever it is, whatever image you're portraying, you're going to attract that same thing back to you. So if you want to repel the clientele that you don't want, then you have to put on a show or have the image of the clientele you do want. So that's the case. And when you're by yourself, there's nobody to hold you accountable except for you. And that's the problem, right? Nobody to hold you accountable except for you. And so you can't take that for granted and start willy-nillying and saying, I'm going to do what I want when I want, how I want. It's got to be about the client every single time. And if you have them in the forefront of your mind, then it will direct you or instruct you on exactly how you need to behave in your business, for sure. No question. So, Elaine, I'm curious, am I allowed to ask a question on this show? I mean, this is your show. So my question is, but to your audience, and then you tell me, is, what do you think that you have people that are listening right now who struggle to be profitable?
I think there's definitely profitability issues. And I think a lot of it stems from that money story that they have, that, they may have been told when they were going to beauty school, oh, you should go to college, you'll make more money, you're not going to make any money. And, I just did my coaching call last night with my members, and somebody said, I find myself deciding how much I would pay for the service that I'm offering to the client, and I make the price what I would pay. And I'm like, mic drop right there. That's exactly what's going on. They're pricing it according to their belief in what they either can afford or they think that it's worth it, even if their skill is beyond to that client.
Oh, that's like raking the chalkboard. Like, yeah. Okay. So Elaine, since you said it, would you mind if we dive into that a little bit? Let's talk about that.
Sure.
All right. So the way I would say that is, there was a time back in the day when I would teach, like, how to raise prices, and people be scared to raise prices, right? The stylists are scared to raise prices and people are going to leave. And there's this whole methodology behind how you raise prices. And then here was the scary part. The scary part now was when you raise the prices, Dean, what do you say? Right? What do you say when you raise prices? And we used to say things like, well, so-and-so just got a promotion, and that promotion obviously comes with a raise. They give us a raise. So congratulations, we're proud of you. And that quickly, I shouldn't say quickly, but that eventually became like, I don't know, stale or cliche, or, the stylists were just nervous about saying it. Even a salon owner couldn't roll off the tongue without them feeling awkward. And so what I've done in my career is I've taken a look even deeper at each of these problems and asked myself, okay, what is stopping them from feeling confident about when they say this? And what is the thing that I can create to help them never have to face that awkwardness again? And so when I approach the question that way, I spend hours doing research and looking around for what it could be. And so I'm going to tell you all right now, this has been the holy grail of how you raise prices. And you could go raise prices in your salon today and do this, and no one will question you about why. And here it is right now. When you raise prices in your salon, whether you're a stylist or whether it's the whole salon, and somebody either makes a fuss about it or asks about it, you simply say this. You let them know, hey, look, all of our prices in our salon reflect the market demand. Done. See, people understand supply and demand. Okay, they understand supply and demand. So when you say just so you know, Elaine, my prices reflect the market demand for my services. That's it. My prices always reflect the market demand for my services. You don't even have to get into, why you raise and this. You just tell them exactly. My prices always reflect the market demand for my services. That tells your client a couple of things. Number one, you're busy as hell. Number two, you're not available like you used to be. Okay. And number three, they get that when they shop in other places. See, we deal with inflation. We deal with price raising when the gas price is going up and all of those things. Psychologically, all human beings, at least in America, understand market demand. And therefore, when you say it like that, it just squashes everything else. So you guys take that, run with it. I promise you it works. And look, does it work like 100%? No, all of you have at least one Typhoon Mary in your clientele. That's still going to make a fuss about it. Okay, so just get over that. There's nothing else I can say to you but get over it. Don't use her as the benchmark and the excuse for not doing what I'm telling you to do that I know works. Okay, our prices always reflect the market demand for our services. End of conversation.
I love that, because we've all been to the gas pump recently and we see the prices, and we don't go into the store to pay for the gas and say, how dare you raise that price without sending me a letter or putting a sign up on the tank or, sending me an email. Like, there's no other industry. I go to a dermatologist here in Florida. I never know what my total is going to be. It's different every single time. And they tell me my thing and I hand them my card and I pay it. And it's just, yeah, it's that way with every industry, restaurants, doctor's offices, anyone else. It is what it is. But for some reason in the salon world, we feel, I think it's because we create such relationships with our clients that we feel like we have to over explain and over apologize. In anything, I love that you said our prices always reflect, demand,
market demand, yeah,
the market demand, because you don't have to say, I see people, they'll put it in a Facebook forum. I'm so excited. I'm raising my prices today. Here's my letter. Tell me what you think. And it's literally an 8.5 by 11 full pager. And I'm like, wow, are you kidding me?
You have to read that. Yeah, of course.
And it's so apologetic. The whole tone of it is like, and the price of gloves used to be this, and now it's that. And the price of foils, this and that. No client wants to hear that whatsoever. So that statement is so inclusive of everything that's going on and the reason behind it. And the bottom line, Dean, it doesn't matter how it's delivered. They're either going to pay it or not pay it. They're either going to stay or not stay. It doesn't matter how it's delivered. So I get a lot of pushback on that, because my members will say, well, what do I do? And I'm like, literally, when I'm raising my prices, I open up my laptop, I change the price, I close my laptop. Client comes up to the desk and says, oh, we have those clients that are the check writers that have the check right now before they get there, just in case. And they'll say, oh, that's, $5 more than last time. And I say, yes, correct. There's been an increase. And they say, okay. And that's it. That's
just pay it. Let's leave your community with some confidence. Here's the statistics. Okay. The statistics say that you could have anywhere between 7 and 10% attrition when you raise your prices. And here's the good news about that. If you raise your prices correctly, that 10% doesn't matter. You still end up making more money than you did before you had the price increase.
Oh, wait, let's not forget the 10% attrition is happening whether you raise your price or not.
I was just going to thank you, Elaine. I was just going to say that.
That's the part that nobody pays attention to.
Exactly. That's the point. That is happening anyway. Understand that. Okay. And the better news about this whole thing is, if you're a good stylist, when I say a good stylist, what I'm talking about is the experience that you give your client when they're in a chair. If you offer an exceptional experience every time your client sits in a chair, your attrition rate is going to be less than 1%. I'm just letting you know that right now. It's gonna be less than 1%. And the 1% that's not gonna pay can't pay. They've hit their limit in their budget. They just can't do it. And that's it. And that's when you recommend them to somebody else who's at a lower price point within your salon. And if you're a suite owner, trust me, still cool if you recommend them to somebody that's at a lower price point, if you know that person. And why should you do that? Just know this: Domino's went out during the pandemic and bought $100,000 of other restaurants' gift cards and then gave them away in the boxes that people were buying. Listen to what I just said.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Domino's bought, not negotiated. They bought $100,000 in gift cards from other restaurants to help them stay afloat and gave them away as added value whenever you order 2 pizzas. What do you think about that?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did. And so they definitely did their part in helping restaurants stay afloat. But think about the goodwill that they put in the bank with their own customers who also eat in other places, because the pizza is for home where you're watching a game or having a family movie night. But if you want to go out for a nice dinner, maybe date night once a week, Domino's just help with 25% or 50% of whatever that meal is going to cost you. Come on, man.
That's amazing.
Goodwill goes a long way. So yeah.
One of my favorite things that I learned from John DeJulius in his Secret Service book is one of my favorites from way back. And he says, make the service so amazing that they don't even think about price. Like, I belong to a hotel here, their spa club. It's much cheaper to be in the spa club. I go once a month. I pay $99 a month, and every month I can pick a facial or a massage. It's a deal, right? It's amazing. So I expect such a level of service from this hotel because it's a 5-star property. It's famous. Everybody knows about it. It's the Pink Palace, the Don Cesar. So when I don't get good service, I start to question my $99 deal. I'm not even paying the full $150 thing, but I'm like, whoa, I'm here every month. I'm tipping every month. I'm eating here every month when I come to the spa. Sure. So, you're making me question whether I should continue with doing that, even at a discounted rate. So I want the people listening to understand that whether you're charging $30 for a haircut or $300, it's the service or lack thereof that's going to make them question the price, not the price. It doesn't matter what level it is. It's, did they have an amazing experience? Because if I have an amazing experience, I throw my card up. I don't think twice about it. If I don't have an amazing experience, I'll go over a bill in a restaurant and be like, I want to make sure I didn't get charged for that appetizer that I forgot. I never do that. We never got our calamari. I bet you it's on the bill. I start nitpicking. And then I'm like, I'm not tipping them 20%. They didn't give me a 20%. Like I'm totally chipping away. Where any other time I hand them the card before they even hand me the bill. I don't even look. Of course,
yeah. Psychologically, you're doing that check off when you feel like you haven't received the service that you paid for, right? It's all about the exchange of value for the money that you're going to pay. And if you feel in any way or shape or form slighted, you start to check off these things in your head. Absolutely. There's no question about that. That's happening all the time. And what our community here needs to realize is that psychologically, especially if you do this, what Elaine just said, understand that your clients are doing exactly the same thing. They're not different from you in terms of what's, and they don't even recognize it's happening, but it's something that definitely is happening every time you pull money out of your pocket. And if you have to think twice about that money, you're thinking twice about that money. So yeah, definitely a good thing to think about. So Elaine, where should we take this next? Because I want to make sure that we're serving your community here really well. I mean, I still want to talk a little bit about profitability.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Every business owner, not just salon owners, wants to be profitable. You're in business for profit. And what I want our community to remember is that we are in a profit business, and therefore you have to run your business like you're in it for a profit. This is not a hobby. So here's always my question. We're in an industry that is worth over $60 billion a year, grows at a rate annually of about 7 to 10%. And yet less than 90 less than 2% of salons in the United States are actually operating at profitability, real profit. So the first thing that I want to do after you let that sink in, that number, because I'm pretty sure you want a piece of that profitability pie out of that 60 billion. First thing I want to sink in is, do you, and no disrespect to you guys when I say this, but do you know what profitability actually is in your salon? Do you know what that looks like? Do you know what that number is, or where it belongs on your balance sheet? And I'll tell you this much right now, I'm no finance guru. The lady in my life is the finance guru in this family, but I understand exactly what profitability looks like, right? And so I want to tell you what that looks like first. This is very simple. You've paid all the bills that comes with your company, including your commission if you work behind a chair, plus your manager's salary if you do other things where you work on your business. Okay, so all expenses paid, including any owner benefits like leasing a car or any of that if you include that, like we did. And then you have money left on the bottom line that you can put in the bank that doesn't belong to anybody. It's not going to pay a credit card. It's not going to pay a mortgage. It's not going to pay a lease. It's paying for nothing. It's just in the bank. And if you choose at some point to reinvest in improvements of your business, you can use the profit.
What is the average right now, Dean? Because it's always been really low, but I'm curious post-COVID what the average profitability is.
You're not gonna like it. It hasn't changed that much. It's sub 6% most of the time.
So it's even lower than it was.
Yeah, it's sub 6%. Well, you know, I don't know if it's ever been that much higher than 6%. And I've worked with, at this point, hundreds of salon owners, and personally worked with like a couple dozen, like myself, like with them in the soup. And I don't think I've ever started working with a salon that was above 7% profitability. You know, except for my lady was always in before we started running the salon together. And so I know that 90% of salons are definitely not profitable. And, you know, if you take the top 5% in our industry, you know, 3% out of that top 5 are breaking even, or they're banking the profit into their revenue or into their salary. Let's just call it that. So, you know, I mean, most salon owners I meet are living off the profit in the business. They're not really having a profit at the end of the day. And so I don't
say that again, because I think people get that twisted, and that's a great point. When you see that there's a number on your sheet, your profit and loss sheet, and to your point, you didn't take a manager's salary, you didn't take a commission. I can't tell you how many owners say, well, I haven't paid myself in 5 years. But they're living off of whatever that little profit looks like, and that becomes their salary. But that's not true. That's not profitability.
True. That's not true profitability. That's you just have a job at that point. And you live in check to check too, you know, when you have that job. So not to scare you guys, don't be discouraged. The question is, how do you actually become profitable, right? How do you make sure that you become profitable? And I'm only going to, you know, we only have time for me to give you like a couple of tips here. So I'm going to give you what I think is some of the most important ones to understand. First of all, I just explained to you what profitability is. You need to have that in your mind as simple as you can. Write it down when you're watching this. You know, profitability is all the bills have been paid, including your commissions and your salary as a manager if you manage a salon. And then that number that's on the bottom line, that doesn't belong to anyone, that's your profit, okay? If at some point you choose to reinvest that to improve your business, you can spend that money out of the profit, but that's profit. That's where that lives, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, do you have a budget guideline, okay? And do you know what it should be? So what you want to do is make sure you have a budget guideline that lists every single direct expense and indirect expense in your business, and knowing what percentage of your money should be going to that. Now, when you put it up, it will not be correct. It will be all over the place. But here's the deal. When you have that budget guideline, it will instruct you in one of two ways. Either find a way to make more money so that it lines up, or find a way to cut costs. So here's what I found most of the time. The biggest waste in a salon, and when you're by yourself, it's probably going to be worse, is product waste. Like even in a salon as efficient as my girl used to run it, we were throwing $10,000, $15,000 down the drain in a multi-million-dollar salon every single year. Okay. And so that's important, right? The other thing is all the ancillary stuff that you buy that you think you need that you never use, like, over over buying baskets, over buying all this stuff for every holiday season that comes around, all this material to make sure that and here's we spent money on a dishwasher that nobody ever used. Why? Because listen, guys, we're not immune either, right? Again, we're in a multi-million-dollar salon, definitely profitable, have all these highly trained, skilled stylists, and you know what they bitched about in our staff meeting? They wanted a damn dishwasher. And then we get to the meeting, and I'm like, we're not getting a dishwasher. And my lady goes, I already bought it. Which is hilarious. Ask me how many times they actually used it before we actually sold the salon. And I'll tell you, I could count on one hand how many times people actually loaded that thing and emptied it. Okay, just not necessary. So you got to look out for those distracting things. It's like Netflix or The Bachelor or scrolling through Facebook. These are all distractions, right? So you have to have a budget guideline. My third tip is that you need to have clear, set, listen to the word, sales goals. Okay, let me say that again. Let it sink in. You need to have clearly defined sales goals. Every business for profit is in the business of sales. Recognize that. If you're in a nonprofit business, don't worry about sales. If you're in a profit business, get obsessed with what your sales numbers should look like. Okay, because this is what's going to get you out of trouble, and this is what's going to lead you to the promised land of having profitability. So when you know what profitability is, you have a budget guideline that's guiding you that you don't need to line up, and then you can look at your, you don't have the distractors, and then you look at what your sales are going to be. Like, what is that number that you need to hit? Clearly defined, and that way you can develop systems behind making sure you hit those numbers. See, if you don't have that sales number in your mind, you can't plan for it. You're just shooting in the dark, throwing stuff up against the wall and hoping something sticks. I mean, that's no way to run a business. If you're going to run a profitable business, you need to have those things in mind so you know exactly where you're going and what you're going to do. By the way, it also instructs your conversation and your coaching with your team if you have a team, right? How can you have a constructive conversation with your team if you don't have an idea where you're going? They will have no clue where they're going. It's just chaos. Who climbed the tree to look over the jungle to see where the landmines are? I mean, that's what your goal system is all about. So those are my 3 top tips I can give you on how to become profitable. And if they sound oversimplified to you, that's because we're down with KISS. Okay, keep it simple. You know what, right? It's simple, simple, simple.
I agree. And the best thing that I ever started doing from you is the budget guideline, because as an owner, I was the type that I would sit down with my checkbook and it would be like electric bill, write the check, gas bill, write the check, rent, write the check, and then the sales rep would come in and say, what do you need? And I would turn around and look at the shelf and be like, give me 6 of this, 8 of this, 4. I would just throw numbers out totally willy-nilly. And then I would end up having like a dozen of a color that would sit, and then 1 tube of a color we use all the time because there was no system. So when I would go to these business workshops, the speaker would be doing their keynote and they talk about system. And I would say, and they would finish their talk and they would walk away and I'd be like, so what's the system? I wasn't getting that you have to create your own, and you just have to have a system. There's no magic pill or magic formula, but you giving us the guideline of a proper percentage of advertising versus, hard goods used on the back bar versus sellable goods, and the turnover of the sellable goods, like understanding that until you've sold X amount of hairspray, you should not be ordering another hairspray. It should be, measured and with the system, so you don't have all this inventory sitting there.
100%, Elaine. I mean, and Katya was meticulous with this inventory system. I mean, she was so efficient. I hear salon owners complain about their distributor relationships, let's just say. And one of the things they talk about is how their distributor doesn't help them. And I always say, what reason have you given your distributor to help you? And they'll say, well, I buy their stuff every month. I'm like, yeah, well, they sell to lots of other people who they're not helping. So what reason have you given them to help you? And I say that to you because watching Katya in action with distributors is the best thing you've ever seen since sliced bread. Because she doesn't just say, help me because I'm huge. She doesn't just say, help me because I'm doing all this money. No, what she does, she goes, oh, by the way, I just want you to know something. Look at the retail we did of your products last month. We hit 24% retail of service. So I'm running a promotion and I want you to provide all the free stuff I'm going to give away. Oh, you don't want to do it? That's fine. You know, the other guy that was in here before you will do that. But this is what we're doing. And it's not because your product is that good, because nobody sells retail this good, okay? It's because we have a system. Our people are trained. I mean, literally, when she first met me, I came in to be her coach and I was the director of sales or whatever. She got me to buy not one, but 2 Tiffany bracelets to give away for a retail promotion. Each of them cost $1,200. But why would I say no? She had the numbers. Understand what this means, guys. She had the numbers. We're going to do this much this month. You don't want to help me? Hell yeah, I want to help you. Right? Hell yeah, I want to help you. So when you say your distributors don't help you, you got to give them a reason to help you. There's another reason how you become profitable is I don't think Katya ever paid for a promotion that gave away product in her entire life as a salon owner. Never happened.
And it goes back to the old adage, asking you shall receive. If you never ask, they don't even know what it is that you need in order to support you. To your point, they have so many accounts, they can't possibly, anticipate who's going to need giveaways for a promotion. You have to step up and ask and form that relationship with your rep.
Absolutely. You have to step up and ask. I think I froze there for a little bit. I don't know why, but anyway, you're back. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you have to step up and ask. If you don't ask, it's not going to happen. And give them a reason to do it. Like show them what your performance has been. Trust me, any salesperson, even your dumbest salesperson, understands numbers. Okay, when you show them what your performance has been, they're going to help you. Because it means that you're going to be turning over their product, but you can't just expect them to help you just because you buy their stuff and you're not performing. The stuff is sitting on your shelf for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and you're not moving anything, and yeah, I remember going into a salon way back when I was working at L'Oreal, and I put a secret sticker on the bottom of a product that was in the back of the shelf, and I came back about 2 or 3 weeks later and they told me everything was great. And I went and found the bottle, still about 4 bottles back. And I showed the salon and I said, she said, what's that? And I said, that's my sticker. She said, did you just put that there? I said, no, I put that there 3 weeks ago. Oh.
So simple,
mind blown.
Right? Yeah.
So simple. So yeah. So Elaine, where do you want to take this? What else do we got for your community here? I always feel charged up when I'm doing this because I love this stuff.
I would say at this point, because you and I could talk forever, I would share with them how to get more Dean and how to reach out to you for more. Because there's so many topics that we can chat about, and usually people's attention span dwindles after 30 minutes. We can do a part 2 and get into more nitty gritty, but I want them to know how to get in touch with you.
So guys, look, the best way to get in touch with me is to use Facebook Messenger. It's Dean Forbes. It'll pop right up. And, right now, I'm going to make you a special, I'm going to tell you what you want the budget guideline. I'm going to give it to Elaine's community for free. So what you want to do is look me up on Facebook and just send me a message that says budget guideline and it will be yours. Okay, because if you don't have one, you need one. And from there, if you want to work with me further, understand exactly how you become profitable as you scale, we can schedule some time on my calendar to talk about that. So you send me a DM that simply says budget guideline, and it's yours.
Awesome. That's so generous. Thank you, Dean.
Of course.
We will see more profitability in our listeners with that budget guideline. So thank you for coming back to the podcast. Thank you always for your time and energy. And thank you, everybody listening. And we will see you on the next one.
Very cool. My pleasure. Bye, guys.